Today's bonus video wouldn't be possible without help from Card Trader. They're a great sponsor, but we'll talk more about them at the end of today's game.
Hey gang, and welcome back. Today's game has Ian, Maximus, myself, and Mika battling it out. Ian has borrowed Maximus's Kenrith deck, and it's a gates-based deck with him keeping Kiyora's Follower, Soul Ring, Timeless Witness, Gond Gate, Plains, Hold the Gates, and Ghostly Prison. Maximus is playing his Urza deck, keeping Ancient Den, Command Tower, Darksteel Citadel, Swiftfoot Boots, Mystic Forge, and Master of Ethereum. You know it's an old one because I'm still playing my Felix 5 boots, keeping Slither Blade, Rejuvenating Springs, Mirage Mirror, Sword of War and Peace, the Black Gate, Forest, and Woodland Cemetery. Last but not least, Mika is playing Pramikon, keeping Darksteel Ingot, Path to Exile, Leadership Vacuum, Flagstones of Trocaire, Swiftwater Cliffs, Azorius Signet, and Deflecting Palm. Ian wins the die roll and starts us off. Ian draws and plays a Plains. He taps it for mana for a Soul Ring, and then taps the Soul Ring for Vorak Battlehorns and passes after they resolve. I just play a Rejuvenating Springs and tap it for a blue for Slitherblade. Mika has a tapped Swiftwater Cliffs, gaining one as it comes in. Maximus just plays a Command Tower. Turn 2 has Ian playing a Forest, and then paying 2 for Wall of Omens, drawing again as it enters play. I play a Forest for turn, and then hit Mika for 1 and pass. Mika's got a Flagstones of Trocaire, and then pays 2 mana for an Azorius Signet. Max has a similar turn, playing a white tapping land with an Ancient Den, and then casts his own Signet with a Dimir Signet and passes. Ian draws and plays a Gond Gate for turn. He then taps enough mana for Hold the Gate and passes after that. I've got a Woodland Cemetery, and cast my first sword of the game with Sword of War and Peace. Mika draws and then taps all of his mana for Pramikon. As it enters, he picks this away to force people to attack, which if you've been looking away, is attacking to your right. He then passes, having no land to play for the turn. Maximus has a Darksteel Citadel for turn, and taps 4 to cast Mystic Forge. This allows him to look at his top card, and he does, and then passes turn. Ian draws and plays a Seagate, which comes in untapped thanks to Gond Gate. He then taps enough lands to cast Crackling Perimeter, which is some fun tech in a gate deck. He then taps a gate to deal 1 to each of his opponents, and passes to me. I've got a Reflecting Pool for turn, and then tap enough for Strixhaven Stadium. Once it's out, I tap it, and add a counter to it, to help equip the sword onto my unblockable creature. I then swing the Slitherblade at Ian, and he takes the hit for 3, and then loses life equal to cards in hand, while I gain equal to the cards in my hand. I get to put another counter onto the stadium as well, and I then pass to Mika. Mika's got a tap Sulphur Falls for turn, and then taps enough for a Darksteel Ingot and passes to Max. Max draws and looks at his top card again. He then casts off the top a Cranial Plating and looks again. We then see a Swiftfoot Boots from his hands, and he passes after that. Ian's got a Plains for turn, and then taps enough for an Axebane Guardian. He then ships the turn after that. I draw and play the Black Gate, losing life so it comes in untapped, and I then cast Felix 5 Boots, and I go to combat. I can only attack at Ian, so the Slitherblade heads in his direction, gaining 2 triggers from the sword as it connects, and 2 stadium triggers to add counters to it. I then pass to Mika. Mika plays a tapped Prairie Stream, and then casts a Felwar Stone. He then decides to pass, leaving some mana up. Maximus taps 2, and he casts an Arcane Signet off the top. He then looks at his top card again, and plays a Sunken Hollow, which comes into play tapped. He then casts Master of Ethereum from hand, and he has a count of 7 artifacts on the field. He then passes to Ian. Ian draws, and plays an untapped Black Dragon Gate. We then see Kiyora's Follower coming in, and Ian equips a Battlehorns onto it. Ian then decides to main phase tap some of his gates, pinging his opponents with a Crackling Perimeter, and he passes to me after that. I untap and draw and play an Exotic Orchard for turn. I can only swing Ian's way, so I keep doing it, and I go with the Slitherblade once more. He takes the 3 and gets 2 sword triggers, and I get double stadium triggers again. My second main phase then has me casting Kaito Shizuki, and I uptick him, drawing a card. I then cast Snake Umbra onto Felix, and Kaito phases out as I pass turn. Mika draws and casts one of the old standard All-Stars with the Mantis Rider. He then hits me with it and passes turn. Max draws and looks at his top card again with the Forge. He then pays enough mana for Urza, and once he's out, equips him with the Swiftfoot Boots. Moving to combat, Max swings the Master of Ethereum at Mika. Mika doesn't even move to blockers before casting Path to Exile on it, and Max is happy to go and find a basic. Once he's got an island to field, Max then moves to his end step and makes a construct token and then passes turn. Ian's main phase has him casting Kenrith, and once he's out, he follows up with a Baleful Strix, drawing a card as it enters. With nothing else, Ian passes. On my untap step, Kaito phases back in, and I draw for turn. I'm not happy with the card I drew, so I uptick my Planeswalker, drawing a card and discarding a card. I then move to combat, going at Ian again, and doing the sword and stadium triggers again. Once that's done, I cast Nature's Lore, going to find a breeding pool and taking 2 so it comes in untapped. With nothing else, I pass the turn to Mika. Mika's got a Port Town for turn, which comes in tapped as he has no island or planes to reveal. He then follows up with a tapped Eon Engine, and he then moves to combat. He hits Kaito with the Mantis Rider, and he passes after that. Maximus draws and looks at his top card. He equips the construct with the cranial plating, and then plays a Seat of the Synod. He then gears up the construct with the Swiftfoot Boots, and he goes to combat. He swings it at Mika, who declares no blocks. However, before moving to damage, Mika does have a response with Deflecting Palm to try and punish Max, but Max is ready, using Access Denied to counter it. This has Max making 2 1/1 Flying Thopter tokens, and it pumps the construct by an additional 4 power, dealing a total of 22 damage to Mika. Max then passes, and during his end step, he makes another construct token, and we then move to Ian's turn. Ian plays a Basilisk Gate for turn, which comes in untapped, and he then pays 5 needed to cast Explore the Underdark. He goes to find 2 gate cards with it, and takes the initiative, which does not look like this can of bubbly water, but instead looks like a giant card like this. He also gets to go and find a basic to hand. Ian then puts to field a Baldur's Gate and a Manor Gate, and he then activates the Basilisk Gate to pump the Baleful Strix once they're out. Moving to combat, he swings the Strix at Max. Max just chumps with a Thopter token though. In Ian's second main phase, he then untaps the Strix with Kyora's Follower and passes. During his end step, Max realizes at this point that the Baleful Strix has Vigilance anyway from Hold the Gate, so we untap it and the Follower for Ian. I untap and draw. I then cast Sword of Body and Mind, adding a counter to the Stadium as I've tapped it for mana. I still can only attack Ian, and I go at him again with a Slitherblade after equipping it onto it. This gets me the initiative, and adds enough counters to the Stadium that after it hits him, Ian loses the game because of its second ability. I then also get to go and find a basic to hand as I've entered the Undercity, and in my second main phase, I then uptick Kaito, drawing a card. With nothing else, I pass to Mika. Mika starts off his turn by trying to make a deal with Max that will allow Max to take me out, provided he doesn't attack Mika the turn following, but Max can't agree to it. Mika decides to move forward with the plan anyway, and casts Leadership Vacuum, targeting himself to bounce Pramikon back to the command zone, plus he gets to draw a card. Mika then follows up by casting Bedlam, and once that's done, he passes to Max. Max draws and looks at his top card. He then counts up his power, and then activates the Mystic Forge, losing 1 and exiling his top card. Max then casts 1 with the machine, drawing 4 cards, and hopefully finding something else. He then plays a land for turn, and once that's done, casts Filigree Attendant. It's basically a construct token as it gets pumped by however many artifacts he has, and once it resolves, he equips the Swiftfoot Boots to it. His creatures are now massive, and he commits fully to go at me with his board. Despite the fact that I can't block because of Bedlam, I still live and drop surprisingly to 2 life. Max does take the initiative, and he gets to enter the Undercity and goes to find a basic. He then announces he'll move through his phases and move to his end step, and during his second main phase, Mika cracks the Eon engine to reverse the turn order. As the turns have been reversed, Mika then moves to his turn, and he draws and plays a Steam Vents untapped and takes 2. He then basically taps out for Insurrection and steals all the creatures on the board. And even with the constructs losing some power because Mika doesn't control as many artifacts as Max does, he's still able to swing out at Max and I, and with enough power, takes us both out in combat and wins the game. Before we get into the game review, I just want to thank Card Trader for their sponsorship of this video. Card Trader is a massive marketplace with thousands of cards from hundreds of different sellers worldwide, and you can always find what you're looking for or find something new. There's great support, as well as the Zero system, which is basically a PO box for your cards. They'll store them safely and combine shipping for international orders, so you can save on pesky fees. If you act now, you can use my code to sign up, and use the promo code MTGMudsta to save 5% off your first order.
Game review time. A lot of people have been asking for older commanders, and while this game did feature some older commanders, these were still mostly decks that were built this year. Felix 5 Boots was a great deck, but it became my Indominus Rex deck, which in turn became my Egra deck. But Felix was still a lot of fun when I was playing it, and I'm really happy I got to showcase this using the Strixhaven Stadium to win and take someone out. That was like one of my bucket list things for doing with the deck, and being able to take Ian out, although he wasn't the main threat, was just awesome. Ian's deck was not his own. He was borrowing Maximus's Kenrith Gate deck, and unfortunately it just seemed like he was kind of spinning his wheels a little bit. The Basilisk Gate being out is a huge pump to his team, but unfortunately he just wasn't really able to do much with it. There was no way to give it trample, and his best creature to get it was the Baleful Strix, which unfortunately died or just wasn't really doing very much. Maximus's Urza deck, however, was particularly strong. I was really impressed once his commander came out. Those construct tokens add up fast, and all the equipment and other creatures that are functioning in the same kind of vein as the constructs, where they get power equal to the artifacts, means he had a lot of pretty beefy beaters, which worked out well until Mika stole them all with his Pramikon deck. Pramikon is a great card. I like the idea that it forces people to do things that they wouldn't normally do without denying them completely from being able to do it. Forcing your way to have to attack, in my case, through Ian to Maximus, then to Mika, is pretty cool, and I like that kind of subtle control element to it. I'm also a huge fan of anyone playing Insurrection these days, and if it resolves, yeah, you deserve to win, so props to Mika for that.
This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, but it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.